Good morning, everyone. Thank y'all for joining us and thank y'all for y'all's patience. We are here with Walker Consultants. They are a team that is here for the entire week who will be looking at our parking infrastructure, seeing if there's any changes that need to be made, both parking and transportation. I will be here moderating. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything that you would like to address with the team, you can submit a comment and then I'll be reading them to the team. Other than that, I will turn it over to the experts.
Hi, good afternoon. So I'm David Lieb. I'm joined by my colleagues. We're with Walker Consultants, a national consulting firm on transportation, mobility, parking. We have colleagues who are also here working on transit and shuttle study. We are focusing on the parking portion of the study. But we will be coordinating because this really is not only a parking study, it is a mobility and access study for the campus. So a little bit about Walker. Started as a parking design firm, but quickly moved into consulting. The company started 60 years ago, but we've been consulting for well over 40 because it's not just about a physical piece of infrastructure. It's about how much do you need, where does it need to be, how do you manage it, how do you maximize the utility of the system for the people who use it every day. And that's why we're here. So my background is in higher education, parking and transportation administration. I was at Cornell University in upstate New York for 23 years. Moved on to be the director of parking and transportation at the University of Colorado Boulder, which I did for 2 years, and I joined Walker almost 11 years ago and work exclusively with higher ed clients. I'm the national director for higher ed mobility planning, and I'm joined by my colleagues who I will let introduce themselves. Karen, you want to start?
Sure. Hi, I'm Karen Paris. I'm a planner, and I work also with the higher ed team on the college campus master plans.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Feedy. I'm out of the Houston office with Walker. I've been at Walker for about a year, a little over a year, and prior to that, I spent 4 years at the University of Houston as an assistant director in the parking and transportation department there.
I'm Toki Long, based out of Houston as well, working in the planning and operations technology section of Walker.
Thank you, everybody. So the reason we're here is not to present anything to you and not to tell you anything. We're here to listen. We want to know as we look at the campus and we gather all of the data, we get all the numbers, we want to know about your stories. We want to see the system through your eyes. So what we'd like to hear are any questions or comments that you have about what's going well, what we should make sure the university continues to do, what you believe are some of the best practices among the parking policies, and to hear what you think could be going better. This is really all about you and to hear your stories. If you are here as an individual, your stories are welcome. If you represent other constituent groups and you want to speak on their behalf, you can give us your thoughts representing those. Just let us know which it is, so we have a good understanding of the kinds of questions and concerns and issues that you'd like to raise and you'd like us to be aware of. With that, I'd really like to turn it over to you to share your thoughts, please. While you type that in, I'll let you know that we've been out on campus the past couple days looking at the system and looking at how full the lots are. We just came in about 5 minutes ago from having counted, the occupancy in every single lot on campus. We're looking at every lot type, every space type within every lot, and we're going to take this objective measure of how full each facility is, where the hotspots of demand are, and where there may be space available that perhaps the campus could be using more efficiently. Any questions come in yet, Kat?
So far, not yet. I do know we did have a comment that y'all were a little bit hard to hear, so I did turn up the volume. Oh, we do have one. Okay, so our first one, as a staff member, I live in fear every day of hitting a student with my car and going to jail. So definitely about just the amount of walking traffic and traffic on campus. We have another one, parking is a hassle for how much we pay for parking. There's not guaranteed spots, and there's no covered parking.
Okay, speaking to the safety issue, I think it's a great concern to raise. If we can help the university adjust the parking system such that people find a space on their first try, the first place they look, which means managing the system a little more granularly than it is now. Because right now, in large part, it's a hunting permit system. You get a permit that's good in a certain color lot. Any lot of that color, anywhere on campus, is valid. So what that really causes people to do is go to their favorite lot or lots first and circle those looking for space, even if they know they're generally full. This creates more traffic, more congestion, and that means more traffic at the busiest times when there are the most pedestrians, when there are the most cyclists. So if we can do things that help people find parking more directly, reduce some of that hassle that you described, that the second commenter describes, it can reduce the amount of traffic and the amount of potential conflict between vehicles and pedestrians. So those are great comments and great thoughts. Thank you.
So we do have another one. It does feel like if you come late or have to leave and come back, there will not be a parking spot.
We certainly are seeing areas on campus that are very full. The campus was not as full this morning as we saw it yesterday afternoon. We're going to be back out doing counts this afternoon and anticipate seeing that some of those areas where there were spaces will be more full than they were. But what we'll do is get this good sense of where the spaces are that are available, so that the system can be adjusted such that people have an easier time finding those remaining spaces on campus, so you don't feel like it's full. If the campus is indeed completely full, that identifies a whole separate set of issues, which we would be ready to work with the university to help address as well.
Who here at Texas State is responsible for knowing how many spaces are available and how many users? It seems that there should be proactive identification of issues instead of reactive.
I think that's the reason we're here. I think the campus is taking the concerns around parking and transportation and access to mobility seriously, so that we can help provide some guidelines about how to manage the system, perhaps a little more closely, such that there is a better sense of how many spaces are available, but also to be able to manage the sale of permits appropriately. It doesn't make sense at a university campus to sell one permit for one space, because people are in and out all the time. They have different schedules, different days, different schedules on different days. So a certain amount of oversell of permits is a best practice, but it has to be managed adequately such that people can feel like they have a good chance of finding a space when they do come to campus. And I think the campus has recognized that that is a challenge right now, and our work is an attempt to assist and support with that.
We have a lot that is both restricted and for students. If you leave at lunch, park downtown because there won't be a spot. I know they do tickets, but it doesn't stop anyone from parking there.
Yeah, enforcement's a challenge, and that's certainly another big topic of conversation that we will have with the university and make some recommendations such that people have an easier time finding parking, so they don't feel like they're resorting to parking illegally, but also to make sure that there is consistent enforcement such that it discourages people from parking illegally, because there's a domino effect with that. Right? We don't recommend enforcement practices to generate revenue for the university, though the financial penalties have to be adequate to discourage the behavior. The point of enforcement is to generate compliance. The goal for any parking system is to write as few tickets as possible, and we would like to help the university get there while maintaining a high level of compliance such that the system is predictable to use.
I've been on this campus for decades, and this has always been a problem. No one wants to spend the money to fix the obvious problems. Parking services being self-funded is an issue.
Yeah, parking services at most universities all around the country are funded the same way as auxiliary services. So, as you say, self-support enterprises on campus. So anything that we recommend is done with an eye towards helping the university do it as efficiently as possible with the least cost that would need to get passed on to the users. The primary revenue source for a parking auxiliary on a campus are permit fees, and we're aware of that. So we want to help the university do this in a way that is most cost effective for the university, so it remains cost effective for the users of the system. But we understand that, and we understand the challenge, and appreciate you bringing that up.
Lots of first-year students who live on campus have cars that do not drive to campus. Have cars that they do not drive to campus. Bus systems that don't have all of their stops timed means you can never know when to wait or when you'll be picked up. We have a bunch of comments, so whenever you want me to stop. So
okay.
Or I can just keep rapid firing on this, y'all.
No, that's fine. I think that's a set of very related questions, and it's why we're doing a transit shuttle study at the same time as we're doing the parking study, because they are really inextricably linked to each other, and it's all about that access. If, for instance, some resident students don't need frequent access to their cars and are able to store them further away from campus and get to them reliably, conveniently with shuttles, that allows some spaces closer to the core of campus to be available for the people who go in and out every day. So we're trying to look at how the system can be balanced to meet the needs of students who need frequent access to their cars, and also for those who need less frequent, so they have a less expensive option a little further away, but still can feel confident they can get back and forth to the cars. Karen, anything you'd want to add to that? I'm doing all the talking.
I was just thinking another thing that we're going to be looking at is understanding that there's been an increase of not only students, but students that live on campus, right? There's been 2 new residence halls that have been built. There's going to be another one starting soon. And so that changes what that balance of needs is between residents and commuters. So trying to adjust what that looks like for parking as well is going to be important.
Toby or Yvonne, anything I've missed in the answer so far that you'd like to add?
No, not so far.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
So kind of tying into the same thing that you just mentioned, why are freshmen, residential students in dorms allowed to park on campus? You would be hard pressed to find many universities in other large urban areas that allow freshmen to park on campus.
Sure, that policy varies very much from university to university. We've worked at dozens that have allowed freshman residents to park and many that do not. Some of that has to do with what the available supply is, or the setting, or the campus culture. The current policy of the university is to allow that. We will discuss that as one of the options. But it raises a whole different set of issues, because as many students who may have a vehicle there for convenience, many also have it there for necessity, whether it's jobs, whether it's family responsibilities, whether it's medical situations or others. So we want to make sure that whatever policies we discuss with the university can accommodate all of those needs, and recognize that it's not just a uniform group, they are individuals with individual needs.
C, parking should be budgeted into each new building and parking garages under each new building, like what's happening downtown.
Always a challenge at a university. It's easier for a university to get funding for buildings than it is for parking. Parking, again, being a self-supporting auxiliary. Some universities have successfully developed programs where there is essentially a parking space replacement fund, such that projects that remove parking are required to provide essentially reimbursement for the spaces that are lost. So the university's parking auxiliary can set that aside and use it as needed to add parking. In the absence of that, every bit of parking that's added will probably translate into an impact on fees, or we do try to remain conscious of that. The expense of structured parking, whether it's underground or above ground, is significant. An above ground parking garage can easily cost $35,000 per space to construct, and putting it underground becomes double that. So again, we're trying to be sensitive both to the needs for access and for parking, and for the needs of folks who are purchasing the permits, and for whom the price of that permit is a real impact.
I was hit on Monday by a student who parked behind me in an area that was not marked a parking spot and yellow marked curb. Students park wherever they want, and there's no oversight or consequence.
Anecdotally, certainly we've been out in the field and we've seen some of that, activity. So we're documenting that, and again, as we talk to the university, as we make recommendations, we're going to make recommendations about how to increase the effectiveness of the enforcement program to avoid those kinds of behaviors. That is not what you want out there. Certainly, we have driven through areas where just driving in a lot means squeezing between two vehicles because one of them is illegally parked. So definitely are seeing that challenge out there, and it's a legitimate concern. Thank you.
I have had to drive to 4 lots looking for spots and have noticed a lot of reserved and handicap spots that seem to be underutilized. Is there a rule on how many handicap spots need to be saved?
There are federal guidelines around the number of ADA spaces that are required in the system. It varies from state to state how states' attorneys general interpret the rules. Most universities can group the spaces where they're most logical to have them. But also, we encourage our clients to use discretion and have more ADA spaces where there's a demonstrated need for them. So while there is a rule as to what the minimum is, there are also guidelines and care necessary to make sure that there are adequate ones. Reserved spaces, we look at those, we'll look at the use of those and make recommendations about that. There are certainly people on campus who need them in order to do their jobs, but generally we like to see a very conservative use of reserved spaces, because most spaces, as we were talking about with the oversell of permits earlier, can accommodate more than one person per day, and a reserved space cannot. And if someone who has a reserved space also moves their car throughout the day to go to meetings elsewhere, then they're effectively taking up 2 spaces. So we're acutely conscious of that and want to make sure that the correct balance is struck with that so that you're able to get the best use out of the spaces that you have to reduce the number that you may have to add, though I think the university certainly has in mind adding spaces in the future.
If they eliminated most freshman parking on campus, it would solve most parking issues for faculty and staff. I think I would consider parking elsewhere if reliable, continuous bus service would bring me to campus and back.
Yeah, again, these are fair points. I think that it is reasonable to look at whether or not the university should allow freshman residents to have cars, or whether the university should increase the alternatives such that when a student does come to campus, they can feel confident that even if they don't have a car, they can get around effectively.
Right, yeah, that's one of the big things. By restricting first year students from having a car, the thing that needs to be in place already is how to get off campus. What are those connections to the rest of the city and to back home? So those support systems need to also be in play before that restriction can take place. And we've got a team looking at transportation, but that's a big piece of what that looks like. So yeah, they don't need to drive to campus, but how do you get them back off campus again?
Based on your findings, what you recommend can be implemented and considered for the short-term and long-term goal?
Excellent question. We are in the middle of day 3 right now, so we don't have any conclusions and recommendations yet. But the input that we're getting in focus groups, in town halls like this, is definitely informing our process, so that we can make recommendations that fit this campus, and in its setting, fit its campus culture, and meet the needs.
Would love to see more restrictions on freshmen bringing cars to campus. If there are not already, there should be designated pickup and drop-off areas when persons are being picked up or dropped off in non-designated areas. It causes traffic jams.
Yeah, managing the curb is generally what we call that, and that is a very common issue on campuses, especially a campus where there's such congestion and busyness in the heart of campus. So that's something that we're attuned to when we're in the field.
I'm an admin in McCoy, and some of our instructors complain about circling parking lots for over 30 to 40 minutes. We also have outside community business leaders visit our classrooms, and it is a horrible presentation when they can't find parking. LBJ parking garage is full, or get a ticket because they had to park anywhere that they could find a spot, even if it wasn't the allowed spot.
Yeah, we understand those challenges, and again, if we can balance use in the system and make it more predictable, that should make it a better experience for people who come to campus every day and the people who you host coming to campus.
Parking continues to decrease and usage continues to increase. Build more parking garages, have a bus system with time stops like any normal transit system would.
Yeah, so again, we've got folks looking at the transit system. Sometimes systems run transit with such frequency that they don't need schedules. And people can feel comfortable that they're not going to be waiting more than 5 minutes for a bus. When it gets to about 8 or 10 minutes, then systems tend to put timetables in. That needs to be balanced by route and by use. But it's certainly worth considering. One of the things I wanted to mention, again, that goes back to the question about freshman vehicles, is to remember that not every student resident does have a car. So that anything that is done that can help some students decide not to bring one will also help the other balance of the resident students on campus who don't have access to a car or don't want a car or don't own a car. So there are broader benefits than just the parking system from that. So it's really important to look at and is a critical piece of the work that we're doing.
I feel like in 2025, we need designated spots for drop-off. We have students who utilize Lyft or Uber just to get to campus and food delivery on campus and by the dorms.
Agreed, and you mix Amazon into that and other delivery services, and it really does tax the system, particularly in a university which has so much in the way of service and delivery already in order to maintain it. Right, it's a small city, so yeah, that's a very valid point. Thank you.
I also feel it is a slap in the face to see spots reserved for people to pay for parking that don't have permits. We have 24 that were taken from Green. Seems the staff and students already pay.
Yeah, again, we're looking at the balance of the use of the system to make sure that we can make good recommendations about how to balance the need for permit space and to balance the need for transient use for less frequent users to the campus, and especially to make sure that your true visitors, not people simply using paid parking in addition to their permit parking, which you don't want people to feel they have to do anyway. So really to get the right balance in there so that you're able to serve the many needs on campus. So I understand the frustration when spaces that you're accustomed to using for one purpose get redesignated for another.
Students will illegally park, but not for the whole day. They come in for one class and leave before parking enforcement makes their rounds.
And one of the things that we're working with parking on is to help them improve the efficiency of the enforcement program. Again, so that you can cover more areas more frequently, so that you can help people understand that if they do park illegally, they are more likely to be caught than not. And again, not about raising revenue, about improving compliance so that the people who legitimately pay to park in an area will be able to find a space in that area and not be displaced by others. Really, enforcement is customer service. You're serving the people who have paid to do the right thing.
For the freshman parking situation, we could potentially make residential parking spots in the same area as commuter parking. That way the students still have access to the cars, but the main spots on campus can now be used for faculty and staff that are needing reliable parking spots because of their jobs.
Yeah, so, right, and Karen, you're saying commuter students and faculty and staff are the folks who come in and out throughout the day, every day. The resident cars tend to dwell more. Again, we want to look at the needs of all of the different campus constituencies so that they all get met. And that's a challenge, and it's a challenge in a system that is as full as this one is. We're trying to keep the needs of each different constituent in mind, understanding that those needs differ from one audience to the other.
The buses tend to fill up at the first stop and all other stops are starved. Apartment buses are wildly underutilized. People drive to park to ride the bus. Smaller buses or transit vans to apartments that arrive faster may be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, we've got our colleagues are with the transportation folks right now, having these conversations to get the right schedules, the right balance to look at what the ridership is on the various routes, so that the resources can be redeployed so that the capacity is where the need is when the need is.
Your comments about shuttles won't be lost on us, though. We will pass them along to our colleagues as well.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Karen.
My office no longer hosts meetings on campus due to the hourly LBJ Student Center parking garage being filled with students. Same as McCoy, we can't build any relations with our off-campus partners. Does not create a welcome or accessible environment.
Yeah, we're hearing quite a bit about that, and we'll certainly be paying attention to the LBJ garage and to transient parking in general. And by transient, I mean short term, folks who don't need it every day and are paying by the use, to make sure that that is available to those who need it, but is not excessive to the point where it's displacing others.
We don't have any new comments at the moment. Excuse me. The K garage at LBJ fills up at the line, and the line backs up into town. People block the road for hours trying to get into the garage.
Yeah, we're certainly hearing a lot about that, and have that in the forefront of our minds. Thank you.
The problem is more than inconvenience for some of us. I am faculty, nearly 70, and typically not teaching until afternoon. So coming in at 8 a.m. is unnecessary. I've had to walk more than half a mile on multiple occasions to get to work so that I can be in my classroom on time. I don't feel that I am handicapped and do not want to make that claim, but it is more difficult to walk than half a mile uphill now that than it was 20 years ago. By late mornings when I arrive, I see many red spots filled, and I think that's going to be a twofer question or comment.
Yeah. Again, we want to make sure that the recommendations that we're making are about balancing that use so that, again, the system can be predictable such that you don't have to come in 4 hours early, 6 hours early in order to find a space. And we understand that that is not a reasonable expectation.
Just going to give it a minute.
I know I haven't been able to answer every aspect of every question, but please be assured that we are keeping a record of all of these questions. We will keep these experiences in mind. These are important. These are things that affect you every day, at least twice a day, and we understand that. We understand why it's not just an irritant; it's an impact on your life and on your productivity. And that's why we're here.
The Edward Gary Garage does exist, but you may as well park downtown. No visitors benefit from parking here, and walking all of campus would make sense as a student-only parking.
Yeah. Again, it's really about balance in the system. I think we have to realize that some campus residents need access and some need storage, and balancing that is a critical piece of the system. But we don't want to count any specific group out and not recognize that they have needs as well.
This was a continuation of both one a second ago. Faculty need to be able to come and go at different times of day, but cannot do that today. Enforcement that is more strict, booting, etc., may lower the inconsistence of those who are repeat offenders that we can park anywhere we need to.
Agreed. How's that a one-word answer? You haven't had many of those.
What is a specific and realistic goal or outcome that y'all can foresee the university implementing? Kind of want to manage my own expectations.
We're not going to solve everything. But I think if we can make it better for each of the different user types in the system, I think that that's reasonable to hope for. We're not going to be able to make spaces appear out of nowhere, and we understand the cost associated with it, the costs that get passed on to others. So we're really trying to be very conscious of that. A balance between parking and other ways to access campus, I think, are going to be really important, particularly as the campus continues to grow. Even if it were possible to accommodate every bit of need with parking, I think so many people have pointed out that the road system simply wouldn't be able to handle it. So you have to be cautious about the number of vehicles that you accommodate on campus, because they have to get here and they have to get around campus and they've got to get to and from campus, and that affects more than just the parking facilities. So we're trying to really look at this in a very well-balanced way, again, so that people who don't have cars or access to a car have good access to, from, and around campus. And by improving that, perhaps some people who prefer not to drive to campus, but are anyway, because they don't have good options, will now have options. And to make the system work more easily for everyone. Is it going to be absolutely easy for everyone? That's unlikely. But I think that there are things that we will be able to recommend that will make the system better and work more smoothly. Many of the times we find ourselves on a campus, it's not because the parking system or the transportation system has been neglected. It's just that the university is such a dynamic and growing and evolving and changing place that a campus outgrows its mode of managing its parking and transportation. It hopefully is a positive sign for you that the university has brought in folks to look at it, that they understand that they need to make changes, and that maybe the system hasn't kept up with the rapid growth at the university, and needs to look at new ways of accommodating all of the different users of campus, particularly as the enrollment and employment grow.
The color system is too confusing. A guest at the university is not going to know the difference between red, green, and purple, or why they can't get a red pass without having to speak with someone.
Yeah, I would say that one of the things that we consistently want to do as we work with the university is to make the system more intuitive. And again, I think that the color system may be contributing to the university outgrowing that method of management. So as campus grows and as the needs intensify, a parking system needs to be managed a little more closely than with that color system.
What would assist improving the balance? Do we need more support, education, automation?
I'm going to say yes on all of those. I think that there is, technology and data can certainly help a lot. Communications and marketing, I think, are critical. I think if you develop programs such that students, particularly resident students, don't feel like they need a car in order to have access, and communicate that early and often, you may be able to reduce that amount of demand from that particular audience without the necessity of banning certain users from parking on campus. So I think all of that is really important. I think people understanding that, as some of you do, that parking is a self-supporting auxiliary, that it gets no tuition money, it gets no state money. It's all from fees and fines, and the university doesn't aspire to generate the money from the fines. Like I said, it's about generating compliance. So it really comes down to what the impact is on fees, and we want to make sure that we're being aware of that, and that the people who use the system are aware of that. So where the money comes from, and where it goes, and what it's supporting. So many times when we see the comments, as many of you have commented in the survey, if any of you have taken that, and Kat, you can share maybe a survey link in the chat. So many of the comments are, the parking is expensive, considering that I can't find a space, or the parking is expensive considering that the space I pay for isn't available and I end up parking further away. What we aspire to is creating more value, right? Those are questions more about value than about cost. You want to feel like you're getting what you're paying for, and we understand that. And that's another piece of that transparency that we recommend. And your suggestion about communication, I think, is a vital one.
No question, just observation. University vehicles also often park in reserved spots.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we're looking at that as we look at the inventory. Thank you.
I might have missed it, but what are the next steps? By when will recommendations be made to Texas State? Just looking for a time frame.
So we're going to be working throughout the fall semester. This is our first site visit with the campus. This is our first engagement with the campus community. So we're going to continue gathering data over the next couple of months or so. By the end of the calendar year, we anticipate having at least some preliminary recommendations, perhaps some low-hanging fruit that could be addressed in the short term, and by early in the spring semester to have a final report that has longer-term recommendations that move into the next academic year and beyond, and provide sort of an implementation timeline or a roadmap to success. So I think that there can be some short-term wins shortly. There is a potential for the university to make some change for next year and into the years to come as the campus again continues to grow and change in pretty remarkable ways.
Due to recent changes, in order to get guest parking passes, we are now required to ask visitors for a large amount of vehicle information. This feels incredibly invasive to ask someone who we are hosting. Why do I need to ask my guests for so much information? Are there any plans to scale this back?
The key piece of information in a system that uses license plate recognition, the cameras that you see on the enforcement vehicles, which are in lieu of hang tags and decals, that the important piece of information there is the license plate. So I would foresee that is the primary means by which privileges can be very quickly granted to visitors. There may also be ways to accommodate short-term visitors in pay to park. It doesn't necessarily always have to be the end user that pays. It could be whoever's hosting them. I think we have to remember in all things that parking is an auxiliary, and the more people who pay into the system, the lower the permit fees can be because it's distributed over more folks. Again, that doesn't mean that a particularly valued guest has to pay themselves. It may be their host that pays.
You have a couple of more minutes for questions or comments if anybody viewing would like to submit any. Our next online town hall will be today, this afternoon, from 4 to 5 p.m. in the same setting. So if there's any questions or comments you think of after listening to what we have this afternoon, and if you would like to join later, you can. There's also the online survey, which I did submit the link to Facebook and YouTube if you would like to submit any survey questions or comments as well. We have many visitors who get rental cars, and we are unable to get that information in the time frame that parking services requires us to. What are we supposed to do when we need to provide a license plate, but we won't know that information until the same day?
We'll work on that with parking. It's a reasonable concern. Thank you.
There are also service vehicle spots that are extremely underutilized. There will be 5 spots in front of a building and 3 being ADA, 1 reserved spot, and the last to be reserved for service vehicles.
Yeah, we are out there as we're looking at the parking occupancy, and we're looking at all of the different space types. And as you suggest, there may be a way to consolidate some of that in order to accommodate more permanent parkers. I do want to take the time to thank you all for taking time out of your day to talk about this. I know it's an important issue on campus. It's always an important issue on campuses. It may not be the most important one, but it certainly is the one that touches the most people the most frequently. It's something that affects everyone, no matter how they come to, from, or around campus every day, multiple times a day. We understand that, and we're very pleased that the university is, invited us here to help with this. But really appreciate your time and your interest, and the fact that you've kept a steady stream of comments and questions coming. It's great to see that level of interest, and we understand why you have that level of interest. So thank you.
It looks like that might be the end of some of we do have a couple of thank you rolling in. Thank you for coming and addressing these issues. This is a hot topic. I am happy to see it's being addressed. I will say, if anybody does submit any comments to the Facebook or the YouTube video, because it will be posted, after we've ended, I will be able to go back and look at them. And so for our session this afternoon, I will have those predetermined questions or comments then. But if that is all, I would say we're good to end.
Thank you.